Hello and welcome to the second episode of Vegetables Matter. This is a podcast about the fiber arts. I really like local things as well, so as much as I can, local fiber arts, but obviously I branch out from that as well. Plus, perhaps, as the name maybe suggests, a little bit about gardening as well. For those of you who aren't spinners, the name Vegetables Matter is kind of a play on words. Spinners often talk about VM or vegetable matter in their roving or fleeces or whatever it is that they are processing. And, just all those little bits of vegetable matter that get stuck in a sheep. And so that's kind of a common thing to talk about as spinners, vegetable matter. And then I love gardening, I love vegetables, I'm a vegetarian. So anyway, Vegetables Matter. That is a little bit about the name. It's crazy. I podcasted the first time a month ago, and I've been kind of gathering things together for this episode, and a month is a long time. A lot can happen in a month. So it's also been, I don't know, maybe I'll find that it's always like this, but it's felt a little bit scattered. I feel like there's just a teeny bit here, a teeny bit there, maybe not enough to mention in this area, but anyway, so we'll see what comes together with this. I try to just choose out some of the things that kind of have a grander theme going with them. We'll see how that works. It's been really interesting contemplating doing a podcast as well. I do not have a strong presence on social media, kind of very purposefully. And, it's been within the last few months, maybe even almost a year, that I've started watching other people's podcasts, fiber podcasts, knitting, spinning, all of that. And I've really, really enjoyed them. And it's just been a really great way for me to, connect with other people who love this as much as I do. Perhaps even more. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, these people do way more than I do. But here within my circle, I'm definitely like the obsessed one. So anyway, it's fun to see other people that maybe taught me quite a bit, actually. So anyway, I don't have a strong social media presence, but I have really enjoyed watching other people's podcasts, and it really made me want to basically say hi to the people who I love watching, and kind of a way to connect with them. But over the last month as well, I've really been thinking about how to navigate that. I don't like having my life online, and yet here I am doing it, even getting the video software to be editing, and I'm just giving permission to my computer to things I normally don't give it permission to do. So it's been interesting to think about, and I don't quite know how to navigate that yet. For now, I just want to keep going, but yeah, for me that's an issue to think about, and it would be really interesting to hear other people's thoughts on that, how you navigate that world, and what things maybe you choose to keep private and not just on the internet, versus what feels good to share with anyone who could possibly watch. It could be anyone. Like, once you put it out there, it really could be anyone. And that's a good and a bad thing. So anyway, that's been on my mind a bit. The first fiber thing I wanted to talk about was darning. Last episode, I was talking about how I wanted to be darning stockings, and they were sitting in this lovely pile, and I had every intention to darn them. And then after a while, I was like, oh, in order for that to happen, I'm actually going to have to sit down and actually darn them. So I started doing it, and it was actually really, really great. I normally don't like weaving in ends, darning, mending, seaming, all of that stuff is just like, just give me the knitting, give me the spinning, give me that, and I love it. And those details can be challenging for me. But actually, it was really lovely. This was back in November now that I was doing this, and the days were getting really short, and I would get home from work, and there would just be a little bit of daylight And so I would just, normally I would come home and do other things, you know, make lunch and, you know, do all these different things. But I just didn't have very much time to be outside while it was warm enough. And so I just started taking that time and going outside in the backyard and just soaking up the sun. And I brought my darning with me and I started darning, and it was just lovely. I would have just about a half hour, and I would just get some darning, and it just felt so good. So I finally found like a time and place for it. And I think that was an important thing that's been missing. Normally I just want to like go, but this was just a small amount of time while I'm soaking in the sun, and I had a different place for it, and it worked for me. So I got some good darning in. I didn't get it all done, and then before it got really cold and snowy, and then it wasn't as pleasant just to sit outside, although I have done some. So I've kind of had to do it just at some other odd and end times, but I got a lot done while it was good. Also, I mentioned that my mom was in town, and we kind of got into it together, and we would sit out there together and do some darning. So she helped quite a bit with this darning. So the stockings are looking good. Well, this one was mine already. I don't know if I showed it before, but this one was already good. It didn't have any holes. My sister's also didn't have any holes, so that one's good. This one for my brother had a lot of holes. My mom did most of them. You know, we're not being sticklers about trying to make it look like a knitted stitch. I mean, we're just doing basic darning, so it's woven instead. So it's quite obvious, but we like that, you know. It's this is the story of this thing now. So yeah, lots of little holes, and this one just had lots of, you know, even just tiny, you know, I remember over here there was just a stitch that had just been eaten, you know, by just like one little strand. So just doing, you know, little duplicate stitches occasionally, and yeah, just making it a nice solid stocking again. There's that one. And these were knitted by my grandma. My mom's mom, my maternal grandma, although this one is for my mom, and it was her grandma who knitted this one, and this is the only one that's all wool. So this had holes throughout the whole thing rather than just like in the beard that my grandma did with Angora. So yeah, my mom's had lots of holes, but yeah, they're all fixed. It's a solid stocking now. Here is another one. This one's kind of interesting. Again, it had plenty of holes, so I fixed these ones all up. But this one also was not knitted by my grandma. This was knitted by my aunt for my great-grandpa. So the name at the top, it actually said Great Pa before. What I did is I wanted to repurpose it and make it for my husband instead. And so I did a duplicate stitch using white to erase some of the red color that had said Great Pa, and then I did a duplicate stitch in red to kind of create this that says Daoud. Uh-oh, that's maybe backwards. I guess we're flipped around. Yeah. Anyway, you can read it in person. So upside down, backwards, does that help? So that was really fun to do. I really enjoyed playing around with duplicate stitch. That isn't really something I've done before. I was really impressed with how well the white was generally able to cover up. You know, this right here, there was a T right there for great, and you know, you really can barely even see that anymore. So I was pleased with how that came out. It's a little funky in places, but I'm pretty into funky, so whatever. Yeah, so my husband now has a stocking. That should be fun. There is still one more stocking to do. My dad's stocking was in much worse shape than the rest, and it actually just needed to get packed away into some mothballs for a while. And so it's been doing that. I just took it out a couple days ago to kind of let it air out. And anyway, I kind of like looked through it, kind of pulled some stuff out, looked at it. I think I'm going to need to re-knit a large part of it, so that'll be interesting because I can see how I can start doing that, but then it'll be interesting to kind of connect it with other parts, you know, because it's in the beard, and it's a much bigger beard than this one, for example, and so I need to re-knit the beard, but then I think the face isn't, but then like the brim of the hat is, so there's this other chunk. it's going to be a little bit challenging, but I'll at least get started on it. But we'll see if he gets it in time for December 25th. We'll see. Okay, so along with darning, I guess a number of weeks ago, right after I podcasted the first time really, I went to an old coworker of mine. She teaches 3rd grade, and last year she had me come to her class while they were doing a colonial unit to kind of do a fiber demonstration, spinning and all of that stuff. So we did it again this year, and it was really fun, and I dress up just, head to toe in all of my stuff. And as I was kind of figuring out what I was wearing for the day, I realized like, oh, I'm wearing wool socks, but these are just store-bought wool socks. I'm not a sock knitter. I know many, many, many of you out there are. They don't really excite me. Yeah. When you talk about them, I kind of like, get a little bit more zoned into what I'm doing. It's fine. I love that it excites you. That's great. And actually, I am seeing that I could maybe get more excited about them. Anyway, I have knit 2 pairs of socks in my life. Both of them are for me. But so I think part of the reason is that I didn't really know what I was doing when I started doing socks. And so the first pair of socks I ever did was just like wool. And I wore them, and I didn't wear them for very long, and then they just got holes in them. And so it was just like, oh my gosh, I worked on these forever. Those ones were really, really fun to knit because there's a color change in it. So it was just like, oh, really exciting, But then they got holes so quickly. So I think that was really disappointing. And then I started knitting another pair of socks, and they were so boring, and they dragged on. And they took me, I think, like a year to make. So, okay, here, I'll show you. So these are the first socks. Ta-da! They're really fun. I like them. But, well, I fixed them now because I got into darning. So that's the good part of this story, is that I got in this darning mode. I realized I didn't have socks to wear, but that I did actually have a couple pair of socks. So these ones needed darning. I had already done some, and then they got more holes. So that was kind of an old darning job I did, and that seems okay. But then they were really getting very... what's the word? Like threadbare, I guess, here, and I hadn't done this. So I decided to use this, instead of using the same yarn, which is just not that strong, it's just a wool, I did this superwash wool instead. So I kind of darned it with that. And same thing over here on this one. This one was a little bit more threadbare. So yeah, now I have a new pair of socks to wear. And the other pair of socks, oh my gosh, they were so boring to knit. Like, even now I still kind of cringe. This is actually this color here is what I ended up darning these ones with. And these are just some leftovers from a little baby sweater that I had made. So I love these colors, they're great colors, but it was just like stockinette. Same color, boring, boring, boring. So when I finally finished these, which was quite the hurdle just to finish, I had like 2 little ends to weave in. I'm just like, and I just like put them away, and they've been in banishment, I guess, since then. I probably only finished these in maybe like September or something around then. I know that I started them September of 2017, and I kind of have this impression it took me a year, so maybe I finished them in September. So they've just been kind of laying around for a few months. I'd kind of forgotten about them, and then I was dressing up in like all handmade stuff and didn't have socks, which is probably very unusual. I know for a lot of you that would be like one of the top things that you would have. So I wove in a couple ends. I guess I didn't. I still probably need to weave in 1 or 2 more. Yeah. So I have a problem with weaving in ends. It's true. I'm trying to get better. I think part of it is that I think I must not be very good at it. So I probably just need to learn better techniques so that it's not like as awful. I probably need to leave longer tails so that it's not as awful. Anyway, it's something I'm working on. I guess along with those lines, I was going to share one project. I'm like not wearing anything that I made right now. A few days ago, I was wearing all sorts of stuff, but today is the day I'm podcasting and I wasn't wearing anything. So I decided, well, this is, I can talk about my hat. This is a local hat I got at a farmer's market. This is alpaca, and the woman raises alpaca and then she spins it, so it's hand spun, and then she knits them. So this is this really cool hat that I got just this last summer, which I've been loving. I've been wearing it a lot. Okay, so the first garment I ever made, I'm going to share that with you. It is this thing. This is Lamb's Pride, so it's like 85% wool, 15% mohair. It's crocheted, and it's an awesome layer. I wear it all the time. There's some things I don't necessarily like about it, but I'm not that picky when it comes to clothes or things like that. So I don't know, for me it's handmade. It's great. I love the color, and it works really well. Ta-da! It's got pockets, which I love. It's really practical. It just can get thrown on over things. I wear it out in the mountains a lot, and it's just great. I've never like properly blocked it. Again, me and those details. I'm working on it. I'm getting better. I am getting a lot better at that. But this again has a story where I made it. It seamed together, so it must be two fronts, a back, and two arms. And even the arms, did they get seamed up? No. Anyway, I don't really remember this. This was a long time ago. When would this have been? I guess this probably would have been in like, I just will throw out a number. No. Before that. I was going to say like 2010. No, it's definitely before that. I don't know, 2008. Let's say that. 2008. I got to take this wonderful, wonderful class at my local college called The Fundamentals of Fiber Design. So it was really, really wonderful. And we got to just kind of dabble in all sorts of different fiber arts, batik and crocheting and knitting, of course, spinning, weaving, and at the end we had to do like 3 or 4 big projects. So I had already had a small experience with spinning, and I had absolutely loved it, and then I took this class and we had access to a spinning wheel. She really didn't do a lot with the spinning wheel that most people didn't spin, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm all about the spinning. So I managed to check out a spinning wheel from her, and that was kind of some of my very first hand spun that I did. Some singles, which maybe I'll share another time. But so I did spinning, and I did so it must have been 4 projects, because 3 of them were kind of bigger. Spinning, and then I did this, which for me at the time was definitely a bigger project. Now it's like, oh yeah, it's worsted weight crochet, not that big of a deal. But this, and then a weaving project, which was my first weaving. And then I mentioned, and I'll talk about it again, I've recently done another weaving, and that's my second weaving project. So quite a lot of time, both of them on table looms. I've absolutely loved the table loom both times. Anyway, we can talk more about that another time. Oh, and then the last thing was just like really quick, fast, easy, granny square scarf. It was really cute. I gave it away a number of years ago. So anyway, with this one, I did all of the crocheting, and then I even managed to seam it together, and it had me like do some really intense seaming. It took a really long time. I seamed it all together, and then I had so many ends. And I think I was just like tired by that time. I also think I didn't really like how the sleeve set into the shoulder. There were some awkward spots in that, and I was just like, I kind of wanted it tucked in, blah, blah, blah. So I think I wasn't like super wild about it as well. And then it went into the closet, and then I went off. I was traveling all over the world, and it like sat in the closet for years. So I'm definitely one of those people who has projects sit in the closet for years because the ends aren't woven in. Anyway, a number of years ago, I pulled it out of the closet. I had an awful projects night, which I highly recommend to any of you who, host little gatherings with your local community, different craft nights or knit nights or, any of that. Have an awful project night. Tell people, go through your closet, bring out that awful project that you hate, bring it to this night, work on it, or if you can't stand it, someone else is probably going to be like, oh, I could do it. You could swap projects. I mean, it can be a really great time to just look at it with new eyes and get new perspectives and say, do I want this in my life or do I not? Maybe you swap with people. All sorts of things can happen. So finally finished this up and I wear it all the time. It's a great sweater that just really layers well. I can throw it on, like I said, and I do all the time, especially in the mountains. So that is, gosh, my shame. So I'm exposing all my shame to all of you. So, darning, ta-da. Okay, next thing is some knitting talk time. So I talked about the capelet that I wanted to cast on, and indeed it is cast on. I thought I had, oh yeah, there's that basket. So first I did a swatch. I guess I'll show that first. This was kind of playing around with different needle sizes, seeing what worked, seeing what I liked. Oh, it's a little bit hard to see. Seeing if I like the colors together, and I do quite a bit. It's not quite as dramatic as if I was thinking that I would have white instead of gray, but I chose this gray instead. I was also playing around with this pattern up here, which is a sailboat. I didn't quite like how their sailboat was, so I kind of tweaked it here, and I have some other ideas. I'm not quite sure how I'll do it. Anyway, figured that all out. This is kind of my basket with all of the yarn for it. This is my, I mentioned it last time, but some hand spun alpaca. The alpaca's name is Eureka. So got lots of that, and then lots of this. And again, this is Malabrigo Azul Profundo. So yeah, this is the actual product. I don't have tons of it done, though I've really loved knitting on it. I can talk about that in a second. So yeah, I have like the ribbing and then kind of this first design. Yikes. This is hard to get to show up with this dark blue. Anyway, and it's been really fun to do. It's really large. Yesterday I measured it and it was like 63 inches around, and it just seems kind of huge. But the pattern actually says it should be 64 inches unblocked, and then it grows to 68 inches. So I'm kind of, I'm still looking good. I'm actually an inch smaller, which is good. And I mean, it seems really big because I did put it on over my arms, but it is important to remember that this isn't going around my body. It does have to include my arms as well, and maybe they need wiggle space. It looks fine on the person in the pattern, and they're saying 68 inches around, 64 and then 68, and I'm at 63. So for now I'm just going to trust it. As it gets bigger, I'll try it on again and see if it really seems reasonable. It's hard to tell right now. It's all over the place. It's really fun to work on. It is so fun to work on that I've wanted to work on it a lot more than I actually have, but I'm going to be traveling quite a bit the next few weeks with the holidays, and I really want this just to be my, this is just ready to go all the time in the car at different places that I'm at. So I'm not wanting to do too much of it now, and really focus while I'm here at home on some different projects I have going on here. One piece of advice I have is the next emblem that I will be doing is this wave. Oops. This wave right here. And I can't decide if I want to do as the pattern calls for and do like a blue wave like this, or I wonder if I like it this way better with the gray wave. And it's kind of a bigger wave this way. So that would really be my next round. So I have to make up my mind. But if any of you have any preferences, which way you like better, please let me know, because let me know fast. Yeah, I guess that's it for that project. Oh, this is my second time recording. The camera stopped at some point, so I'm trying to remember what I had said. So just another thing is this is my second color work project that I've done, and I love working color work. I love having yarn in both hands and just, taking what I need. So really fun, really, really fun. And I'm loving the colors and the feel of everything, so it's just a nice squishy project. Next up, dog sledding. I was going to say I already mentioned it, but no, I don't think I did mention it earlier. It's just I'm re-recording. So we got snow like 9 days ago. Today's a Tuesday, and we got snow last Sunday. And we went dog sledding Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So like the first 4 out of 5 days we went dog sledding. Had a blast. I mean, dog sledding is just the funnest thing ever. So a little bit about my dogs. I have 2 dogs. They are 4 years old, and I definitely noticed a difference this year in how much they're pulling. Definitely less than last year. Although definitely day 1 was a lot less, and I was like, oh wow, this is a lot different. And then I was like, well, they're also maybe out of shape from pulling. We go hiking and stuff, but it's a different thing. And so I was like, I bet as we go more, then they will get better. And definitely our last run, they had a lot more power to them, but less than last year for sure. So they are getting older. So I'm in Utah, and we've actually been going up to Sundance, basically. So a lot of you may know of Sundance. There's the big Sundance Film Festival. Robert Redford, and anyway, so this is actually Sundance. This is like where I live. Really, really beautiful. I mean, just the snow and the trees and the colors, and just the glorious fun. So we've been going a lot. The last few days not as much. The snow has been melting, but hopefully tomorrow we should be getting another snowstorm, and we are planning to go in the morning tomorrow. There's work later on, but we're gonna sneak in a ride first thing. So hopefully that works out. And in the valley right now, the snow's melting. There wouldn't be that much, but I think up at Sundance there's probably still enough. Anyway, so dog sledding has really, I was involved in all these different projects, darning and all of that, and then we started going dog sledding. It's just like, who cares about any of that? I just need more wool for the sled. My husband made our sled just from things from the thrift store. He got an old walker. He always just saw walkers and skis and was like, if you put those together, that would just be a perfect dog sled. So he did that, and it works really well. He spray painted it all white. But it just needs a lot of like wool and felt on it now. And so going out this year, it's just like, okay, it's time for that. So, dun 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 dun, I made this cushion to go on the dog sled. So what happens is we go up, and we're generally all just kind of hiking together. Sometimes the dogs are able to pull me a little bit uphill, but we're kind of just hiking uphill together. And then we get to wherever we're going to stop at. We turn around, and then we get to just fly downhill. The dogs are just running and running and bounding away, and we're just doing these fun turns and all of that stuff. It's really, really fun. So my husband, when we're going up, I usually am on the sled while the dogs are going up, and then my husband's the one kind of standing, controlling when we go down, and then I'm sitting in the sled part, and then I'm kind of like steering with my whole body, like getting us here, there, and braking as well. So this is a cushion for when I'm doing that, and this is kind of a funny story as well. A number of years ago, we were collecting dog hair from like a dog grooming place. We wanted to, I don't know, have some felting projects and stuff like that with all this dog hair. I've done some felting with dog, and it's not ideal. I think it's better if you mix it. So that, not a lot happened with that. So we had all of this dog fur, and then in 2014, my husband and I went to Egypt and Israel and Jordan, and we got some cushions, and I can put a picture of the cushions in. So when we get them, they're not stuffed at all. It's just, you know, an empty cushion, and then you can transport them. We're not like hauling around these gigantic cushions. So we got those cushions, and then we came home and we're like, oh look, we have all this dog hair laying around. Let's like use it up in this cushion. So we did that, and then I forget what happened. I had actually forgotten this whole story, but making this cushion, I was like, how did this come about? And so I've been remembering it. So anyway, at some point, somehow, our dogs were very interested in the smell of these other dogs inside this cushion, and they tore into it and kind of ripped it apart. So there's this giant hole in this cushion, and we're just like, okay. And we take it and we like put it out in the shed to repair it. You know, that's where things go to repair. The elves go out there and repair all the stuff, and then we like go out and we're like, yay, it's fixed. That's always how it works. Yeah, so, you know, a year later or something, we go out and see it again, and like this cushion, I don't even remember how we stuffed it. I don't remember anything really about it, but all of a sudden it had, no one was sitting on it, but it had just like compressed itself into this really dense, crazy felt with no felting happening. The elves did it, I guess. So it was just this like crazy dense thing with a big, you know, not all the way around because the dogs had ripped into part of it. Anyway, so we had this thing, and we're like, oh, that's interesting. And I forget how the ideas came about, but through the course of things, we're like, oh, well, we could just like put a cover on it and make it a cushion for the dog sled. Anyway, so we get out on the dog sled this year, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it. So I came home, I had this old sweater, I got a bunch of felt scraps, and the sweater was in with it, and I decided not to worry too much about how it looks. I mean, it's just, you know, it's not expertly done at all, but it was done pretty quickly. Yeah, I didn't even worry about this edge. I'm like, who cares? Let's just get it done. And I do like that I have these buttons here, so I can like stuff more stuffing in if I'm feeling like it needs more. And I now have a lovely cushion. So there's that. I have lots of other ideas for different bags and things that I want to put on the dog sled so that we don't have to like, right now we're like strapping our backpacks on, but it would be best just if we had these like beautiful felt bags and we just had our, you know, layers in there, our snacks, our water, all of that. So I'll keep working on that, keep growing. Anything else about the dog sled? I think that's about it. I guess part of that, though, is I have not worked a lot on my linen shirt that I talked about last time. I've made some progress, and it's been really great, but then I also think that getting into the wool here with the dog sled has just kind of pulled me away a little bit. Just like, it's kind of wool time. I still want to get that done. I really would like to get one shirt done by the end of the year. Oh no, I'm going out of town and not coming back. Oh shoot, I don't really have time. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I think last time I just had my fabric. I maybe rolled one side and done one hem. Anyway, I was able to do both sides the hem, cut it, and I even was brave and I cut out the neck hole. Dun 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 dun. So that's there. I had cut out some facing that I was going to sew them together, and then it would be a really nice finished edge. But somehow I've misplaced it, and I think that's kind of why this project has stagnated as well. I'm kind of waiting for that to turn up, but I think at this point I just need to cut out another one. It wouldn't take that long, and sew it. So actually, maybe I'll do that today, maybe tonight. I might be able to sneak in a little bit of time tonight for some fiber stuff. I've got a lot to do, prepping to go out of town. I'm like going to 4 different places, and it's just back to back to back to back. So I'm like, but let's just sneak it in. Let's get this thing done. At least the neck, so that would feel good. I haven't tried it on. I think it's too small because I'm gonna, hem it down more so it'll get bigger. But that would be really cool, and then I can at least start thinking about what these side panels need to look like. Maybe tonight. Ugh, although another thing that needs to happen tonight is I actually have a dye pot on the stove right now. I did it a few days ago. I had all of that. Well, I actually made a little video about it. So I just skeined up this yarn that I just finished spinning, and I'm planning to dye it. So I think I'm going to get it soaking now. I'm going to dye it with some red onion skin. So this is not mordanted, and it doesn't need to be mordanted because I'll be using onion skins. But yeah, this is some alpaca that I just finished spinning up. It's quite a large skein. These are singles, and once I dye them, then I will then ply them with, yikes, can you see it? That's really bad lighting. I'll show it another time. Anyway, this really beautiful green. So I'm hoping to get a nice green from the red onion skins, and then I'll play it with this and have a really nice yarn. There's a lot more of this than there is of this, but I have some more roving that I'll spin up with this. So I'm trying to match the amounts. I don't really know how it'll work. I am nervous about not having enough alpaca for the rest of the project, which will be plied with a white targhee. This is some targhee roving that I bought in New York from Blue Moon Fibers. Well, I bought it at Nitty City, but the company is Blue Moon Fibers. And anyway, so this whole project, I've probably talked about it already, or I'll talk about it more. I don't have tons of alpaca, so I'm not quite sure what I'll do with that, but this is the amount I have for this part, and we'll see kind of how the rest of the amounts work out. So anyway, just wanted to show this off before I put it in the water. Ta-da! So I had all these red onion skins. I'd been collecting them for a while and just felt like, oh, I don't have enough. And then I went to the store one day and there were so many red onion skins. I like doubled. Like I already had this from like however long of collecting, and then I like got the same amount just in this one run. So yeah, so I did the dye a few days ago and it didn't go green. It's kind of a reddish brownish color. So I've done red onion skins before, and I was quite surprised when they turned out this really vivid green. And now I'm doing it again, and now I'm being surprised that it's not turning out that green. So I'm actually, I felt when I first did it like I had it on the stove for quite a while, and I kind of, at that point I was like, maybe if I didn't have it in so much heat for so long, then it wouldn't have gone green, it would have stayed a little bit more rosy. So that's kind of what I'm trying with this one now. I'm like, let's just cook it for longer. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Yep. Natural dyeing. All sorts of surprises. I've never been so committed to needing a certain color before. This is probably the most, like, normally it's just like, oh, let's try it. Let's try it. Oh, great. It's this color. Sure. This is the first time where it's like, no, that actually really needs to be green. Although as today I was looking at it again and I was just like, well, maybe it doesn't need to be green. Maybe it needs to be this color if it's a cool color. So, next thing, linen shirt. Want to keep going. Spinning, dyeing. I haven't been doing a lot of spinning. I kind of finished off that skein of alpaca and have been dyeing it. And then, well, something interesting. This is getting really long, but oh well. I have a number of fleeces out in the shed that are not a top priority for me right now at all. And I kind of was seeing them and just like, you know, like I feel like I have so much fiber that is in line that I'm not getting to, or, you know, slowly getting to. And this stuff is just like, this is not even on my radar to get to. And I saw some really inspiring things, particularly Lage. I'm not very good at pronouncing her name, I don't think, from Fiber Tales. She recently had a bunch of fiber milled from her parents' sheep, Gotland. And anyway, I think there was that, and I think just a little bit of other stuff where, anyway, I had the inspiration to be like, hey, I have all this stuff. My local mill, when I first looked them up a number of years ago, they were just like, we're booked, we're not taking any new customers, we're totally backlogged. And then, I don't know, last year when I was looking at them again, it's like, they're accepting new customers. And then, you know, Fiber Tales was producing stuff, and it seems like something else happened. And I came across this wool, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing anything with it. I'm not planning to do anything with it. It's not the top priority. I should get it milled, and that would be a great opportunity to actually meet these people. I don't know them, they don't know me. It would be a great way to make a connection within the fiber community, and let's go for it. Why not? So that was kind of in the back of my head, and then of course, as that's in the back of my head, then I'm actually like spinning it now finally. So it was actually with dog sledding. I know there's so many dyers out there who, you know, talk about like seeing something and trying to make a colorway kind of inspired from that. And as we've been dog sledding, I've really been just seeing all these colors, these whites and browns and blacks, and just like, wow, that would be really cool to somehow depict that in fiber. So the fleeces that I have, there are 4 fleeces, but there's one black, one white, maybe another off-white, and a brown. And so I was kind of looking through them like, you know what, I should try, like, I've been thinking maybe to keep them separate, you know, have a brown one, have a black one, because they are these really pretty colors by themselves. And I'm kind of a purist. I have a little bit of a hard time like blending fibers. Again, that's something I'm working on, and being really inspired by seeing what other people are doing, like, oh, you can do it that way. And also recognizing and acknowledging in a new way that even though I like qualities of one, I like certain qualities of a fiber, there's things I don't like, and so mixing it with another fiber can really get me, you know, a happy medium in between, you know, softness and durability and all of these different things. So I've been wanting to experiment, and then I have this idea, and I'm like, white, black, brown, these are kind of the colors I'm seeing. Let's try doing some mixing and doing a tweed. So I've been, kind of have some of these fibers. The white is some churro. The white and the brown are churro that I got at the Sheep is Life festival. It's like a Navajo festival, which I think next episode I'm really going to talk more about some Navajo or Dene fiber stuff that I think could be interesting for some hopefully international people who might want to watch. I have in Navajo is in my area, and it might be something kind of new for some other people, and there's some really interesting fiber practices going on there that I'd like to share. So churro, white and brown, and then I have this Icelandic that is like a black, and it actually has some really pretty gray tips. I think I've used up all the tips. There's kind of a gray tip. So yeah, some really pretty stuff. Anyway, so I've been blending it together on just my little hand cards, some Rolags, and then I've been spinning it up. Just a little sample. I don't have very much, and I don't plan to necessarily do that much, but it is just funny that all this stuff that I was like, oh, this isn't even like on my radar for spinning. Of course, it snuck in and is actually the next thing that I am spinning right now. So there's that, spinning. Last little bit, I guess just a little segment on gardening. It is winter now, it's December, so not a lot going on in the garden itself, but still just kind of eating up a lot of stuff. You know, again, lots of potatoes. Finished up last night, spaghetti squash we had, finished up the last of our red cabbage and the last of our tomatoes that when it was getting colder I kind of picked all the green tomatoes, and these were the last ones to ripen up. So finished those up. Yeah, still have onions, garlic, potatoes, I don't know what else. I think, yeah, it's diminishing, but so far so far it's been really prolific. I feel like I just kind of finished doing like a lot of the more diverse stuff, and now we're kind of narrowing down. But yeah, I guess that's kind of it for the gardening. We do also, I don't think I mentioned, we have 8 chickens, and during the winter they don't lay very much right now either. But during the summer we were getting about 6 eggs a day, and now we're getting about 1 egg a day. So we can kind of, accumulate for a while and then make some stuff. So that's kind of what's going on food-wise. Okay, there it is, episode 2. It was really fun and exciting. It really has been very interesting, the month in between podcasts, to kind of be thinking about podcasting, and it's getting me documenting and just kind of thinking about the fiber community, the podcasts that I watch, just trying to get more involved with all of it. So yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, it's really fun and exciting. So thank you for inspiring me to be fibering in a slightly different way as well. Kind of being mindful of how to make something cohesive, maybe, making sure I stayed on the darning and actually got those socks done, because I knew, that would fit well in the darning thing, but I might have procrastinated. But it's like, oh no, let's just do it, and then it gets part of that darning section. So it's pretty fun and interesting to be part of this community in this way now as well. And yeah, great to sit down and chat with you today. I look forward to doing it again in January. Bye.